In this room, at this table, my friend lays a thick inheritance letter between us and whispers that her husband already calls it our money while his mother plans how to spend it. The letter lies between us on this table like a brick. I'm Doris. I write calm money plans. My friend Mara sits in this chair across from me, shoulders tight, fingers pressed on the envelope as if it might float away. Her aunt died last month and left her a home, some savings, and a small apartment overseas. Mara's eyes shine, but not with joy. She says her husband calls it their win, their big chance, their house money. His mother talks about the nephews and the family's future, as if Mara is just a doorway the money must pass through. I do not touch the letter yet. I rest my hand on this table and tell her we will sort this out slowly, right here in this room, before anyone else writes the story for her. I ask her to tell me the last strange thing, not the first. She says last night he stood in this room, pacing by this table, talking too fast. He said the inheritance solves everything. They can clear his debts, upgrade to a bigger place, help his nephews. He called it our pot, our chance, our shared blessing. When she asked about her own safety, he laughed and said, "Marriage means no mine and yours, only ours." His mother had visited earlier with a soft voice and sharp questions. She asked where Mara keeps the deed to her old condo, if the inheritance letter has her husband's name on it, if they have thought about signing one simple paper to put everything in one basket. I listen without interrupting. When she stops to breathe, I slide a blank sheet into the center of this table. I draw 3 boxes. At the top of the first box, I write, "Things in my name only." At the top of the second box, I write, "Things we truly share." At the top of the third box, I write, "Things other people want to control." My writing is large and slow. I tell her we will not live inside fog. We will put facts in the first 2 boxes and fears in the third. Then we will see which fears are real risks and which are only noise. We start with facts. In the first box, we list her aunt's inheritance from the letter. 1 flat in her aunt's city, 1 small savings account, 1 modest apartment overseas. All 3 are in Mara's name only. We add her first condo, the one her parents helped her buy before she married. We write gifted to Mara before wedding beside it. In the second box, we list the joint things. The current family home bought later, the shared account where salaries land, the car in both names. In the third box, we list his personal card debt and 2 loans she knows are in his name alone, plus a question mark for any loans she does not yet see. Mara looks at the page and says it still feels like one big mess. I shake my head. The mess is smaller now because it is on paper, not just in her chest. I tap the first box. "These things are not his prize," I say. "They are gifts to you. The law in many places," I add in simple words, "treats things you owned before marriage, or that are clearly gifted to you alone, as yours. But law is only half the story. Pressure is the other half. That is why we are sitting at this table now. So when pressure comes, you remember this page. She admits she is not only scared of losing money, she is scared of scenes. Her husband loves grand shows. He has already talked about a big dinner to celebrate the aunt's life and their new season. She fears he might bring papers to that dinner, with his mother at his side, and say they are just tidy updates, just signatures for efficiency. She worries that shame in front of family will push her hand. I tell her a simple truth. People can hold out pens, raise voices, and act shocked, but they cannot move your hand for you. They cannot sign for you. The law and the ink still need you. I draw a line under the third box and write one plain rule in big letters. I will not sign legal papers at parties, dinners, or under surprise. I push the page toward her and ask her to read that rule out loud in this room. Her voice shakes on the word not, but she gets through. We say it again, slower, until the sentence sounds like a chair she can sit on, not a wish floating in the air. I tell her that if someone hands her a paper at any event, she can simply repeat that line and walk away. No debate, no extra speech, just the rule. Facts come next. I ask if she has copies of the condo deed and the aunt's letter here. She nods and reaches for a folder from the drawer by this table. She lays the papers down like fragile plates. Together, we read the names on each line. The old condo was bought with her parents' help and put in her name. Her husband's name was added later as spouse, but there is clear proof of the original gift to her alone. The inheritance letter lists only her as heir. No mention of his name, his nephews, or his mother. I am not her lawyer, and I say that. But we can still see the pattern. Her family trusted her, not a crowd. I suggest the next step. A quiet call from this room to someone whose job is to know the rules. Not his lawyer, not his mother's friend, her own advisor. Mara remembers a woman at work who went through a divorce last year and spoke warmly about her attorney. We write that name and number on a card. We will not scramble for it later in a panic. I propose that we call tomorrow from this table, with the papers spread out like now. We will ask simple questions. Do these things count as mine alone? How do I keep them safe? What should I never sign in a hurry? Mara worries that if she calls a lawyer, she is betraying the marriage. I tell her that asking for information is not betrayal. It is like checking the weather before a trip. You do not control the storm by ignoring it. You prepare by knowing if it is coming. I tap the first box again. These things are already in your name, I say. You are not stealing them. You are simply learning how to stand on them instead of falling through them. She nods slowly and writes one more line in the third box. Call advisor before big decision. Now we move from money to words. On a fresh sheet, I write at the top, sentences for hard moments. Under that, we build one line for her husband. It sounds like this when we finish. I am glad for this inheritance, but I will decide about it after I speak with my own advisor, and I will not move it into joint accounts in a rush. We keep the words plain, no long explanation, no blame. Mara practices saying it with her eyes fixed on this table. Each time, I remind her to breathe at the comma. Short breaths, short sentences, steady ground. His mother needs her own line too. We both know that. Mara tells me how the older woman uses soft tones and heavy hints. She talks about the nephews, about family duty, about how Mara should be grateful her son stayed with someone who never gave him children. The words sting, even said in this room. We translate Mara's feelings into one clear sentence. It becomes, I hear that you care about your family, but I will not talk about changing deeds or wills without my own advisor present. We say it until it no longer sounds sharp, just firm. Then we talk about secrecy versus privacy. Mara asks if she should hide the inheritance completely. I say no. Hiding can tangle things later. But privacy is different. She can choose when and how to share. On the page, I write one more line. I will not tell exact numbers in the middle of a fight. She laughs, a short sound, because she knows how fights go in her house. Voices rise, threats fly, and big gifts get promised or demanded like fireworks. We agree that in heated moments, the answer is simple. We can talk about money when we are both calm and sitting at a table. Not now. We also talk about accounts. I suggest she makes sure her inheritance lands first in an account in her name only, as allowed by the laws where she lives. Not hidden, just clean. No mixing with joint credit cards or daily spending until she has a plan. She can later choose what to share, gift, or keep. But once she pours everything into one big bowl, it is very hard to separate again. I remind her that she is not moving any joint money away. She is simply giving the gift money a safe, clear home while she thinks. On another card, we write a small freeze rule. No signing big papers or making big promises on days when we are crying, shouting, or drinking. If there is a conflict, she will say, I will not decide this today. I will sleep on it and talk to my advisor. She will say it even if he calls her selfish or cold. We practice. I pretend to be him, pushing hard. She answers with her sentence, then stops. No extra defense, no long stories, just the line. The first time, she rushes and adds nervous excuses. The third time, she manages to stop after the last word. We imagine the next few weeks. Maybe he will come into this room waving big plans about a new house. Maybe his mother will sit at this table and ask again about nephews and wills. Maybe nothing happens and the pressure stays quiet. In each possible scene, I ask Mara to pick one sentence from her list and say it out loud here. We rehearse until she can cycle through them like small tools she knows how to hold. Not weapons, just handles. Handles she can grab when the floor feels slippery. A few days later, the advisor call happens from this same table. I am not there, but Mara returns and tells me what was said. The lawyer explained that, in her country, gifts and inheritances given only to one spouse are often treated as that person's separate property, unless they sign documents to mix them. She also said Mara has every right to read any new papers in peace, take them home, and get advice before deciding. The advisor offered to write a short letter in plain language, summarizing this. Mara folds that letter and tucks it into a slim folder that now lives in the drawer by this table. I will not tell you every word of the talk that followed in their home. That is Mara's story, not mine. I will tell you that she came back to this room a week later with eyes that looked tired but steady. She used her sentences. She did not shout. She did not sign. When her husband said the inheritance proved she did not need her little condo, she answered with the advisor line. When his mother pushed about wills, she used her own boundary sentence and ended the call. The folder stayed in its drawer, ready, but did not have to be waved. It simply existed, holding the ground under her feet. Now, when Mara visits, she sometimes sits in this chair and helps other women sketch their own 3 boxes. What is in my name only? What we truly share? What others are trying to steer? She shows them how a simple page can cut through fog. She tells them they do not have to wait for a big public scene or a cruel speech to act. They can start here, in a quiet room, at a table, with a pen and a plan. Not against anyone, but for their own safety. If you were sitting across from me now in this room, I would slide a blank page onto this table and draw the same 3 boxes for you. We would list what belongs to you, what you truly share, and what other people are trying to fold into their plans. Then we would shape 1 or 2 short lines you can say even when your heart is racing. Maybe, I will not sign this today. Maybe, I need my own advisor. Maybe, this inheritance keeps me safe. Whatever they are, we would let this room and this table hear them first, so your voice remembers them when pressure comes.